Okay, let's dive right in. We are talking about one of the most contested, most strategically important bodies of water on the entire planet, the South China Sea. You've got to picture this place as a flashpoint, where ancient maps, modern international law, and some seriously powerful military hardware all collide. So you have to ask, right? Why this patch of ocean? What makes it a potential trigger for a global conflict? Well, you can bet it's not just about the water itself. It's about what's under it, what sails on it, and maybe most importantly, who gets to write the rules for all of it.
And that really is the core of it. We're going to break this whole thing down into those three key areas. First, a fundamental disagreement about law and history. Second, a super high-stakes competition for a ton of resources. And third, a military balance of power that is changing fast.
So let's start at the very beginning, the origin of the whole dispute. It really boils down to what seems like a simple question, but it has a profoundly complicated answer. Who does this sea actually belong to? Okay, so what's so fascinating here is you're looking at two completely different ways of seeing the world. On one side, you have China's 9-dash line. This is a claim based on historical maps that basically draws a line around most of the sea and says, this is ours. But on the other side, you have the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea, UNCLOS for short. This is the modern international rulebook, where your rights to the sea extend out from your coastline in what are called exclusive economic zones. These two ideas, they're just fundamentally incompatible.
So the international community actually tried to settle this. Back in 2016, a tribunal at the Permanent Court of Arbitration ruled, and they ruled decisively. They found that China's big historic rights claim had absolutely no basis in international law. Legally speaking, that should have been the end of it. Case closed, right?
Well, here's the crucial catch. International tribunals, they don't have a police force to back up their rulings. China just dismissed the decision. From their perspective, it was an infringement on their national sovereignty and a denial of their history. So with no way to enforce the ruling, the whole dispute immediately shifted. It pivoted from arguments in a courtroom to a new game of creating facts on the water. Basically, a race to physically control the area. So if the legal fight is basically a stalemate, let's look at what's physically being contested out there on the water. What makes this region so valuable that countries are willing to risk so much for it? For starters, an almost unbelievable amount of money. Trillions of dollars in global trade. We're talking everything from oil tankers to container ships packed with electronics sails through these sea lanes every single year. Any disruption here would send a massive shockwave through the entire global economy. And it's not just one thing, it's a whole stack of reasons. Beyond just controlling those trade routes, there's the potential for massive oil and gas reserves under the seabed. We're also talking about some of the world's most productive fisheries, which are absolutely crucial for food security. And of course, if you control this area, you have immense strategic military leverage right in the heart of Asia. And this is how those facts on the water are actually being created. Tiny, once ignored reefs and shoals, places like the Spratly and Paracel Islands, have suddenly become the center of the action. Through massive dredging and construction projects, these little specks of land are literally being turned into artificial islands, creating tangible strategic assets out of thin air. So as you could imagine, this complete transformation of the landscape has led directly to a transformation of the security environment. This is no longer a job for just coast guards. The South China Sea has become a heavily militarized zone. And when we say militarization, this is exactly what we're talking about. These brand new islands are now hosting long runways for military aircraft, powerful radar systems that can see for hundreds of miles, anti-ship and anti-aircraft missile batteries, in all the ports needed to sustain a military force far from the mainland. The strategic goal for all this hardware has a specific name. It's called anti-access/area denial, or A2/AD for short. The whole idea is to create a kind of defensive bubble, a keep-out zone that makes it incredibly difficult and dangerous for an opposing force, like the US Navy, to operate anywhere inside that area. Think of it as a giant no trespassing sign, but backed up with missiles. And this right here, this sets up the central strategic tension. From Beijing's perspective, this is all about defending what it sees as its sovereign territory. But from Washington's point of view, it's about upholding the principle of freedom of navigation for all countries and reassuring its allies in the region that international waters are going to stay open. Two very different goals in the same small space. So you've got these competing goals and growing military forces all operating in the same crowded patch of water. Where does all this lead? Let's take a look at the possible futures.
According to analysts, a true stabilization, with some kind of enforceable code of conduct, that's pretty unlikely. What's most likely is basically what we have right now, a state of managed competition. That means constant tension, close calls, and periodic crises that are hopefully contained by diplomacy. But look at that last one. Crisis escalation is rated as a medium probability. The danger of a mistake or a miscalculation leading to something much, much bigger is very real.
And this shows you exactly how that escalation could happen. It's a scary ladder to climb. It starts with the kind of stuff we already see, low-level harassment like firing water cannons or ramming ships. But from there, it could climb to the next rung, maritime blockades, and then to that final step, an armed incident. We're talking direct military attacks, an exchange of fire, a point of no return.
So, here's the bottom line. This isn't a problem that's just going to go away. There is no quick fix. Instead, what we have is a long-term, risky competition, and the focus for everyone involved has really shifted from trying to solve the dispute to just trying to manage it and to keep it from boiling over into an actual conflict.
And that leaves all of us with the final, critical question. In a world where our economies and our security are so deeply connected, how do you navigate a permanent state of tension over one of the most important waterways on Earth? That right there, that is the challenge facing us all.
Subscribe now for more conflict breakdowns.